Hi everybody. It's Adele Frizzell here, and I'm with Coach Tiffany.
Hi
And
guys.
so today, we're really excited about this topic. I actually was making notes for it last night, and I wrote 2 pages of notes. So Tiffany's going to rein me in on some of this because I could talk for hours about this. What am I going to talk about? What are we going to talk about? We're going to talk about 3 reasons why women should lift heavy weights. I sent an email out yesterday inviting people who are members of this Facebook group to come to this call. If you want to be on that list, just comment below, and we'll make sure you get early notification about our Facebook Lives, which we do every week on Thursday. Okay, 3 reasons why women should lift heavy weights. Have you ever bought a promising fitness gadget that totally underwhelmed you with the results?
I have
What did you buy?
the shake weights.
Yeah. Yeah. I've got some crappy stuff. It ends up in garage sales, doesn't it? Usually it collects dust and then it moves to a garage sale. But what fitness equipment actually gets real life-changing results? Barbells, dumbbells, cable machines. Fitness gadgets become obsolete very quickly, and then they get sold off in garage sales. But heavy weights, they've been a gym staple for 100 years.
Yes.
And that's because of the iron. What?
I was gonna say there's a good reason for it. It's because
Yeah, they work. Iron is still one of the best ways to build muscle and strength. It's how bodybuilders build muscle and strength. It's how sprinters and Olympic athletes build muscle and strength along with training for their particular sport. They all weight train. We're going to give you 3 reasons why women should lift heavy weights and talk about what lifting heavy actually means so you know how to incorporate some heavy weight training into your workouts, because it's really important that you do. So let's get into that. I have some notes I'm going to be referring to here. So in brainstorming for this, you could take the scientific approach, which might bore some people when we start talking about biomechanics and physiology. So let's break it down into 3 things. Variety is one big reason. Strength, and I guess power as well, is another reason. And confidence is probably the 3rd biggest reason. And I think it's often overlooked.
Yes.
So but let's back up before we get into those reasons and take a deep dive. What does it mean to lift heavy? Comment below if you have an idea.
And I think that there's a lot of misconception with lifting heavy as well. People think of lifting heavy and they think that means they have to immediately go in and pick up the heaviest thing in the gym. And that's not necessarily true. It's not realistic either, unless, you want to throw your back out or something. That's a good way to do that. Let's not do that.
Yeah, lifting heavy is like very personalized to you. Your heavy is not what somebody else's heavy is, right? I bench over 190 pounds. That's heavy for me. That's impossible for somebody else.
Me.
And your heavy could be 135 pounds. And that's great. It's relative, okay? So lifting heavy weights, it basically means pushing yourself to lift a heavy weight in a lower rep range. If you can lift a weight 15, 20 times, it's not lifting heavy. Lifting heavy, I would say you want to target 5 to 10 reps, give or take a couple reps. If you're hitting the top end, say 10 reps, and you feel like you got a couple more in you, go up and wait. Okay? You got to challenge yourself when you lift heavy. Some people consider lifting heavy 1 to 5 reps. That would be more like power lifters who lift super heavy weights. And you could certainly program some of that into your training, but there are certain body parts I wouldn't even try to train in that rep range. And we can talk more about that. But I think as a general rule, 3 to 8 reps would be great, give or take a couple reps. Okay. And the idea is that you're targeting a rep range. And as time goes on, you find that the weight you're working with, you can do more reps because you're getting stronger.
Yeah.
And when you do more reps, that means it's time to go up in weight.
But Adele, but what if I lift heavy? Doesn't that mean that I'll get super big and bulky? Like you're telling me that I'm going to gain strength. Doesn't that mean my muscles are going to get huge?
You know, it's funny because a lot of women think that I'll get big and bulky if I lift heavy weights. In reality, you can grow muscle in any rep range, but there's an edge to growing muscle in a higher rep range. In a lower rep range, you actually don't get bigger muscles like you do in a higher rep range. What you're building is strength and neuromuscular conditioning. So the opposite is true. One moment.
Yeah, so basically the higher rep range that you're working at, the more size that you're actually going to gain with your overall muscle mass. The lower rep range, the more you're going to rely on your central nervous system to engage the muscle that is already there. It's going to make your body target those muscle fibers that you're not using on a day-to-day basis already. And you're going to increase strength without necessarily seeing a huge jump in size on your body. So that's why when we say lifting heavy can be beneficial, that's one of the benefits to lifting heavier and having those lower rep ranges is you may see increases in strength, but not necessarily see a lot of mass being added to your frame.
Very well said, Tiffany. Exactly. Yeah, I mean, the lower rep ranges really help you with the central nervous system wiring that she was talking about, where you're recruiting more muscle fibers. When you lift at a lighter weight, you're not turning on as many and engaging as many muscle fibers in that lift. When you start getting heavier and heavier, you have to turn on more of those muscle fibers and engage them so you can lift heavier weights. That's actually really good for your brain. And it's also really good for aging. It's also good for injury prevention. It's also good for independence of movement and freedom. As an example, we lived in an RV for 3 years. And we used to get these propane tanks and fill them up. And they were really heavy. And I think most women would have to get, their husband or partner to lift it. No problem. I can lift those things up and put them in. And I felt really grateful that I lifted heavy weights. It gives you independence.
Yes. And I think that it's really important to focus on that as a female. Sometimes we can tend to rely on those other ones around us to do the heavy lifting for us. But there is something so empowering about being able to look at somebody in the eye and be like, no, I've got this. Don't touch it. I've got it. Like, this is my move. I'm doing it.
Yeah, exactly. You feel unstoppable.
Yeah.
So let's get back to this, the 3 reasons why women should lift heavy weights. Okay. And really, like, variety, it applies to males as well. It's having variety in your workout and changing up your workouts every 8 to 12 weeks, not throwing them out completely, but changing some exercises out as they feel stale or you're not getting results is a good idea. And that keeps things fresh, as I mentioned, and it gives you something to look forward to. I know after 8 weeks, I start wanting to change up some exercises, but as long as I'm making progress in certain exercises, I don't swap those out unless I really dislike them personally. Strength, as I mentioned, really important because you're doing your brain body wiring, but it also gives you strength and power for other sports and independence of movement and the confidence we just touched on. Now, how do you start to incorporate lifting heavier weights into your workouts? There's a number of approaches here, but real simple. You could choose to do a strength training block for maybe 8 to 12 weeks where you're just lifting heavy with all of your exercises. I'm not as huge a fan of that because you're just exhausted. I think the fatigue accumulation is pretty high when you're lifting really heavy all the time, and it wouldn't be for beginners. My recommendation would be to do a mix of heavier weights where you're doing the lower reps and then lighter weights and maybe moderate rep ranges. So an example of this would be, you could choose certain days where this is my heavy weight training day, this is my moderate weight training day, this is my lighter weight training day. Or even within a workout, you could have, okay, I'm going to bench heavy. And this is what I do, right? I Saturdays, I bench heavy, but then I do a mix of reps on each day. So I'm currently 4 days a week. So for example, I will do high reps for like good body parts to do high reps are biceps, calves, triceps, shoulders, and abs. Okay. Those muscles tend to not fatigue very easily, and they benefit from higher reps or medium rep ranges. You have more chance of injury for your shoulders if you do heavy weights for your shoulders. So I tend to avoid that.
Yeah, I think that it's really important to create a good balance between some of those movements where you want to go heavier and some of those movements you want to go lighter. Basically, and this can be in alignment with your personal goals as well. If you're someone who wants to have a stronger lower body, then yeah, your heavier days would probably be on your lower body days. And then you could go a little bit lighter on your upper body days. And what that's going to do is let your body relax a little bit and recover from those heavier training days. It's going to reduce the risk of overtraining and injuries that can come along with overtraining. So creating that balance. And as Adele said, those accessory movements, that's what we call accessory movements. Generally, the body parts that you use every day for daily life can be classified into the accessory things like your shoulders, things like that. You're constantly picking up and moving things. But just because we're constantly picking up and moving things doesn't mean we have a lot of strength in those areas. So you might want to go lighter weight and higher reps for those accessory movements.
Yeah. And so like a high rep range might be 15 to 20 reps, for example. And after about 30 reps, you're working more endurance than anything. So we tend not to program people above 20 reps. But high reps, again, would be 15 to 20 reps roughly. Medium rep range might be 10 to 20 reps. And that's going to be, I would recommend those single joint exercises like shoulders, biceps, but triceps. You can also do chest, back, legs. Let's face it, doing a lot of high rep squats is also exhausting and mentally hard. Cranking out 4 or 5 sets of 20 reps of squats, it's like you're there all day. You know, it's mentally taxing.
Well, and then I'm glad that you said that, because some of the things that you can do as well, like if you get into like single leg movement, unilateral movements, and you're doing a ton of reps on those, it can take you 30, 45 minutes just to get through 3 sets of those movements, especially if you're giving your body appropriate rest time. And that's something else that we kind of need to touch on.
Yeah, let's touch on that in a sec, if you don't mind.
Yeah.
So, like I mentioned, the low reps could be anywhere between 3 and 8 reps or 5 to 10 reps. Okay. There's no specific magic number for this, but it's basically, I would say under 10 reps. And, you know, you definitely don't want to be on the top end all the time. You want to go heavier than that. So I would recommend lower reps for things like big body parts like legs, chest, back, where you're actually using a whole bunch of muscle groups for that lift, squat, deadlift, you know, bench press, that kind of thing, which you can also do medium reps and high reps in as well. And for example, like right now, I'm really working on building up my chest and my strength muscles for a benching competition. So I have one day where I do high rep chest exercise, one day where I do up to 5 reps bench press, another chest exercise, and then I do medium reps incline bench. So I'm working all those groups every week and hitting the chest 3 times with different rep ranges.
Yeah, and slightly different angles as well.
Exactly, with different exercises. Yeah.
Whenever you think about flat bench versus incline bench, you're coming at it from a slightly different angle, and that's going to make that challenge. It's going to challenge that muscle group in a different load pattern, basically.
Yeah, in different ways. So I'm doing some hypertrophy and some strength. Now let's talk about rest. Okay. the heavier you go, the more you're going to need to rest between sets. So while your actual working set is not going to take you very long, let's face it, if you're doing 5 reps, it doesn't take long to pump out 5 reps, right? Although your tempo might be a little slower.
Yeah.
On your lift. But you're going to need to rest. And don't be afraid to rest 5 minutes. 3 to 5 minutes when you're lifting heavy is normal. Anything less than that, what's going to happen is you're actually not fully recovered from your last set. You go and you lift and you rip yourself off of some reps. You just won't get as many reps out. Or you might really struggle with the weight.
And I was going to say, or you might find yourself doing partial reps where you're not even getting the full benefit of the full range of motion, because, you know, really, whenever you're doing these training, that rep and that full range of motion is really important, because you want to make sure that you go through that entire movement pattern to completely make sure that that load is going on that muscle group that you're working.
Yeah. Repeat after me. Half reps don't count. Partial reps don't count. It's don't even write it down as a rep. Okay. If you can't get a proper rep in, it doesn't count. So going to failure is not something you want. We actually recommend that you lift as many reps as you can where you feel like, and you stop short where you feel like you kind of gotten 1, 2, or 3 more reps, and that's it.
Yep. And by the way, if you are getting into that point to where you're doing partial reps, you're at failure. At that point, you are at failure. If you cannot go through the full range of motion, you may be able to hang on to that weight, but you are at failure.
Yeah. Failure we count as technical or physical. So basically, if you, let's say we're doing a squat and you felt like you could do 10 reps, you'd want to stop at 8. Okay. But sometimes I think people stop a little short. So when you're really unsure if you can do 10 reps, you're just sort of guessing, you might want to ask a spotter or trainer to spot you. And then you kind of one day just go in, do as many as you can. They're going to spot you if you can't lift the weight. And then you'll know what your point of failure is so that you can back off from that the next time. And that's called going to failure. And you don't want to do that every workout. You want to do that once in a blue moon, like once every few months, just to figure out what your edge is, right? So
and to understand that, and how to, it helps you understand and connect to your body a little bit better whenever you do go to failure from time to time, because you're going to be like, okay, I can feel this coming on. Last time I did this, this is what happened. So you'll have a better understanding of what your true reps in reserve is versus maybe underestimating or overestimating a bit.
And people underestimate all the time, which is why it's great to have a partner to work out with. Because I remember doing lat pull downs for a really long time at a certain weight, and I just thought I could only do so many reps at that weight. And then I don't know why, but I thought I'm going to move the pin and see up and see how many more I can get. And I got just the same amount. And I'm like, all this time wasted doing the same weight, you know, when I could have been up because I could do the same amount of reps at the higher weight. So really important that you push yourself. When you're lifting heavy, you are pushing yourself, and you should see rapid progress. The rapid progress comes from both getting stronger and also improving your central nervous system wiring, so that maybe week 1 of a new program, you're lifting 80 pounds, but week 2, you're doing 90, week 3, you're doing 100, week 4, you're doing 105. Week 5, you're doing 110. Then you might plateau a little bit, and then you get stronger again. That's what it looks like. If you're always lifting the same amount of weight every workout, you're not going to get the results you desire. You're not going to get stronger, more powerful, more confident. I just think it'd be really boring. And I wonder if some people actually don't enjoy weight training because they're actually not seeing progress.
I could see that.
Yeah, they just do the same old. So be cautious. Like we highly recommend incorporating some heavy weights into your workout, but be cautious if you have high blood pressure.
Mhm.
For example, doing squats can really make your blood pressure rocket. Make sure you have really good technique. So you might want some help with that. Look at some YouTube videos and stuff. We recommend the Renaissance periodization YouTube videos, because they're like 30 seconds long, and they give you exactly what you need to know how to perform a lift. Make sure you warm up. If you're going to lift heavy weights, really important you do a warm up to prevent injury. So a warm up could be walking to the gym, and then because you got a little blood flow, and then or riding a bike for 5 minutes or something, or doing the elliptical for 5 minutes, 10 if you want. And then I would recommend picking a weight that is about 50% of what you think your top end weight will be. So if you think, all right, I can bench press 135 pounds, you might want to do your first set at 65 pounds, and then do a second set at about 70% of your top end weight. So that would be maybe 95 pounds or so. And then go into your progressions. But 2 warm-up sets is a really good idea for your upper and your lower body. You don't need to do warm-up sets for biceps, triceps, things like that, if you're already have been working out and doing something like back and chest, and because they're already got blood to them and they're warmed up.
Yeah.
Any thoughts there?
Well, I was just going to say, sometimes whenever you're doing a warm-up set, all it has to be, it's like Adele said, is a lower weight version of what you are going to be working for the day. If you know that you're going to be doing leg heavy or leg dominant training, then that first leg set, you start off with a light weight, you get that blood flowing, and you slowly add that weight on. And that helps engage your muscles and prepare them for the load that you're about to put on them.
Yeah. The other thing is, if you don't have a partner to work out with, you don't have a spotter, you can utilize the safety bars in the squat rack. Make sure they're set up so that if you were to squat down and you can't get up, you can just rest the bar on the safety bars, rest the barbell, and then duck out and get out. Same with bench press. So safety bars and a spotter, though, are really going to help you push yourself and give you the confidence to push yourself some more.
Yeah, and most stations do have some sort of safety on it. So like I know that I had concerns previously from prior clients about like leg press machines and the safety on that, but they do have the catches and the stops that's going to prevent physical injury if the weight was to be too much and you were to get to failure and not be able to re-rack it properly. So
I would say that when we look at the two genders, most women as a general rule do not challenge themselves with heavy enough weights, and most men have really poor technique.
Yeah.
They'll do the heavier weights, but they'll do the partial reps, you know. So push yourself. And when I say push yourself, that's not just week to week, and that's not just day to day. That's within your workout. So as an example, you go into the gym and you are prepared to hit a PR of 135 that day. Okay, you decide, I'm going to bench press 135. Today is the day. And you hit it on your second working set. Right, you still got more sets to go. It's not over. Try 140. Try 140. Don't go to failure. Okay, that's really important. Leave 1 or 2 reps in reserve. But maybe your PR is actually 140 and you never really pushed yourself. And similarly, if you're doing bicep curls as an example, and last week you were doing 12-pound bicep curls, and you do your first set, you decide, okay, I'm going to increase it 15. A 15 seems easy, and you're knocking out, and your goal is to do some heavier bicep curls, and you're knocking out 10, 12, 15 of those, then go up and wait on your next set. Don't wait for your next workout to go up. Okay, it can be the very next set. And maybe you only get 6 or 7 reps, and that's perfectly okay. You might want to have a think about that. Did you rest long enough? Because maybe if you rested another minute, you might have gotten 10, right? That's huge. Like when I'm bench pressing on Saturday, I do a minimum rest of 5 minutes between sets. That's for ATP. My energy source to completely restore to my muscles so that I can lift heavy. If I shortchange myself on that rest, I'm going to struggle with the weight. It's going to be, sometimes I'll even fail. I'm not even get one lift. So it's really important that I rest long enough.
And I think that's important to note too, that rest, it's not just about that energy replenishment. So maybe your energy is back, but maybe you were doing something that had lat pull downs, for example. For me, whenever, especially if I'm doing like a reverse grip lat pull downs, my forearms start burning. So before I do my next set, I have to make sure my forearms are completely recovered, even though I'm working my back, because those accessory muscle groups can really diminish how much work you're able to do on the one that you're targeting, the muscle group that you're targeting. So rest is not just about energy. You might feel, man, I've got the energy, I can do this, but then your arm is like jello because your forearm is burning. It might take a little bit longer for that arm to kind of calm down a little bit. So longer rest time, there's nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, you should be mentally and physically ready to go again. Yeah, and that's a really good point, how weaker links in the chain can hold you back.
Yep.
Yeah. And can I just say that lat pull downs like this are a really great bicep exercise too. Yeah, that's what we mean. Like if you're already doing a compound exercise like back, chest, and legs, you're working a lot of secondary muscles there as well. Well, have there been any questions about this?
Not really. Jeannie is on. She said hi, and it's funny, she had emailed me some questions about training earlier in the week, and she said, I guess I should have saved my questions for you until this live. Questions answered here. Thanks, ladies.
Okay, that's wonderful. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, so we covered what heavyweight training is, why, 3 reasons why you want to incorporate some heavyweight training into your programming, how to incorporate it, when you should look at incorporating it, and if you're a beginner, not for at least 3 months. Okay, make sure you got good technique, and cautions, right? High blood pressure, be careful certain exercises, your form, make sure you're doing warm-ups, a warm-up and some activation or warm-up sets, and work with a spotter, safety bars, see how close you can get to failure just to figure out your edges, and then back off from that. And expect to go up every week.
Yeah.
Should be increasing in strength every week. And you know what? Number one, you're going to feel like a badass after having a strength workout where you hit a PR. It really is awesome. It gives you feel like a superhero when you hit a PR.
Yeah, it's a great feeling. I actually had some of those moments at the gym this week, and I was very confident.
Yeah.
That's good.
So great for stress relief. Okay, so I think that's a wrap for today. If you're interested in getting some coaching in this, if you would like a customized strength training program, we're here for you. Our New You Combo program, we offer diet and strength training programming and coaching. And you can register for that at thenewuprogram.com. We'll put a link in the comments. All right, thank you very much.
Thanks. Bye, guys.
See you next week.